Hello, everyone, and welcome to our virtual celebration for July 25th. I'm very excited about today. It is the final talk in a series of talks on the path of freedom, living your authentic self free from all bondage. So, in the house today, we have Craig Losey as our practitioner. We have music by George Harrison. We have music by Paul Calabro and Shey Waldrop. So settle in, make yourself comfortable, and join us in this wonderful celebration.
Today's reading is from the middle century theologian, philosopher, and mystic, Meister Eckhart. A poem entitled, Love Does That. All day long, a little burro labors, sometimes with heavy loads on her back, and sometimes just with worries about things that bother only burros. And worries, as we know, can be more exhausting than physical labor. Once in a while, a kind monk comes to her stable and brings a pear. But more than that, he looks into the burro's eyes and touches her ears. And for a few seconds, the burro is free and even seems to laugh. Because love does that. Love frees.
Today we are going to do a contemplation of a freedom of consciousness we can exercise every morning before we get out of bed. Begin by establishing a full and gentle rhythm of breath through your nose, inhaling fully and completely, and then gently and fully releasing your breath. In his book, Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, a survivor of the Holocaust, essentially said that the only thing that cannot be taken away from us is our freedom of what we choose to think. As you continue to breathe, consider this fact. Scientists have determined that all life on this planet would cease to exist within 18 hours if the sun were not to rise. So in the morning when you get up and you see that the sun has gifted our planet with another day, what a beautiful opportunity to choose to smile and have a consciousness of joy. In fact, when you get up, before your feet touch the ground, say aloud, "Today, I choose to be joyous." Consider again that each day, hundreds of thousands of people on this planet do not wake up. They die. And yet, here you are awake. And along with the planet, your life continues. And so you say aloud, "Today, I am grateful for another day of life." And so your smile is widening. Consider also that of all the people who perish, those that you love, those that are closest to your heart, have been gifted as well with another day. And so you say aloud, "I am grateful for all of those that I love that share in today's gift of life." And so you begin your day with the simple choice to be joyous and grateful. And as you do so, you realize that this consciousness of gratitude, of being a presence of joy, is a moment-to-moment choice, and that you are indeed free simply through this consciousness of gratitude. You are free to live fully and to allow your life to be a gift to yourself, to those you love, and to the world. And so it is.
So let's take a moment just to breathe, just to be present. You know, when we breathe, everything changes. And we can just let ourselves, for this moment, be aware of God's unrelenting love for us. There's nothing that we've ever done, nothing that we're doing now, or nothing that we could possibly do that can separate us from that unrelenting, unconditional love, from that force, that intelligence, that divine artificer of the universe that even now is loving us and luring us to a greater experience of freedom, of joy, of living our authentic self. So this talk that I'm giving today is the final talk in this month of speaking on freedom. And really what we've been talking about more and more is not so much the freedom from something, but the freedom to something, to engage, to move forward. You know, one of my favorite stories that comes from the Arthurian legends is the story of Dame Ragnar. So briefly, the story is this. King Arthur was out on one of his adventures and wandered into a forest, and there he confronted a knight, and the knight said to him, "I'm going to give you a riddle, and you have 1 year to answer this riddle, and if you don't, I will behead you. And if you are a chivalrous man, you will return this day in a year to answer the riddle." And the riddle is this: what do women want? Well, Arthur didn't know. And so he goes back and he's bemoaning this to some of his friends. And in walks Dame Ragnar. So she is known as a loathy woman. Apparently her breath was that of a swamp. She had tusks like a boar. Her skin was blotted and botchy. She sort of carried her large frame in a way, and her hair was draggled. She was, as one of the knights said, one of the most disgusting things alive he had ever seen. But she had the answer. And she said basically this: I'll give you the answer, but Sir Gawain needs to marry me. And Sir Gawain, being a noble and good man, says, "Hey, I'm up. If it saves the king, count me in." So she gives him the answer. What does a woman want? She wants sovereignty of her life. So the year passes. King Arthur goes to the place in the forest. He answers the question. The knight is thwarted. And then Ragnar says, "Okay, time for a wedding." And Gawain is like, "Okay." And so there they are. And the wedding is complete in all that it was, because he was a good man. And so that night, as he's getting ready to perform his duty as a husband, she says to him, "Well, let me go slip into something more comfortable." And as it says, she comes back out, and she is the most beautiful woman that he has ever seen. And she says, "Look, here's the deal. I was cursed. And the curse is this: is part of the time I am what you've seen before, this sort of beast of a being. And other times, this is who you see, my true self." She says, "And you can choose. When we are in public, do you want me to be Ragnar? And when we are private, I will be who you see now. Or would you rather that the public self is who you see now, and the private self is who you've seen before?" And Gawain, being a noble man, says this. He says, "You know, this is way too big for me to answer." He says, "You know, the answer is what a woman wants is her own sovereignty. So you choose." And in giving her that thing, he breaks the curse. She returns and is restored to her beautiful self. And as it says, they had many children and lived a long and loving life together in King Arthur's court. What I love about that story is this: is to truly love another person, is to give them their sovereignty. I can tell you quite honestly that some of the most boneheaded decisions I've ever made is when I've thought I knew what was best for someone rather than listening to them or honoring what their desire is to be. Because, so often, I don't know about you, but so often we want to control the situation. But control is not love. In order for love to be love, there must be freedom. And for us to truly love another is to give them their own sovereignty. In order for us to love ourselves, we must give ourselves the freedom to live authentically into that divine idea that we have been created to be. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who is one of my favorite theologians of the last century, says this: learn to regard people less in the light of what they do or omit to do, and more in the light of what they suffer. In other words, listen to them, be present to them, and not be running our story into their life, into what we think is best for them. In 1959, the summer of 1959, Ernest Holmes, the founder of our particular denomination, gave a speech at Asilomar. It was his last time to speak at Asilomar before he passed the following year. And he gave this very rich and mystical sermon. It's called the Sermon by the Sea. You can go online and find it. It's rich and powerful. But there's a line in there that I got to tell you I have struggled with. And I want to say this, is I think it's good sometimes to struggle with things, because it means it's jarring, it's startling, it's inviting us to expand beyond our own sort of idea of how things are supposed to be or what they are. So he says this. He says, find me one person who is for something and against nothing. So I just want to sit with that for a second. Find me someone who is for something and against nothing. Well, I think I'm for life, I'm for goodness, I'm for truth, beauty, on and on and on. But I also feel like I'm against certain things. I'm against racism, I'm against poverty, I'm against hunger, I'm against environment degradation. But I think what happens is we get caught into that. So let me give the full verse of what he's saying here. Find me one person who is for something and against nothing, who has redeemed enough not to condemn others out of the burden of their soul, and I will find another Savior, another Jesus, an exalted human being. So here's the thing, is to be for something is to have worked through all of our condition. Of course I'm against environmental degradation. Of course I'm against racism. But my focus isn't on the things that I'm against, because that's a burden. My focus is on the things that I am for. I'm for life. I'm for beauty. I'm for generosity. I'm for goodness. And so when my attention is on the things that I am for, and I'm not focused on the things that I'm against, then it creates the space for this newness to move forward. Richard Rohr, in his book Falling Upward, says it like this: we all become a well-disguised mirror image of anything that we fight too long or too directly. That which we oppose determines the energy and frames the questions, after a while, along with a very inflated self-image to boot. In other words, we become attached to the things that we are against. And if we are attached to the things that we are against, we are in bondage to them. We all know this is metaphysics 101, right? If thoughts are causative, focus on the thing that you desire, not the thing that you are against. What is it that you desire? We desire freedom. Well, then focus on freedom. Begin to visualize what it means to live authentically, powerfully, joyfully and not on the limitations that are there. And then just watch what begins to happen. And here to me is one of the most powerful lines. It's a mantra that guides my life. It's sort of the end story of the whole Judeo-Christian Islamic mythology that is written in the Quran and the Christian Bible and the Hebrew Bible. I'll tell you what, the hints of this are even in the Bhagavad Gita, and is this: in God all things are possible. In God all things are made new. Because when our consciousness is focused on that which is the creative force of all that is, when our consciousness is focused on that unrelenting love of God, then in our life all things are possible. And no matter what has happened in our life, when our attention, our focus is on that unrelenting love, then truly all things are made new. And it comes down to this, is that it gives us the freedom to live authentically, to be our true self. Because when we are living an inauthentic life, it is an energy drain. It is siphoning off all the possibilities that are there. But when we love ourselves and give ourselves the freedom to be who we are, then truly all things become possible to us. Thomas Merton says it like this: our deepest freedom rests not in our freedom to do what we want to do, but rather in our freedom to become who God wills us to be. This person, this ultimate self God wills us to be, is not predetermined, static mold to which we must conform. Rather, it is an infinite possibility of growth. It is our true self. That is, a secret self hidden in and one with the divine freedom. In obeying God, in turning to do God's will, we find God willing to be free. God created us for freedom. That is to say, God created us for God's self. So the path to freedom, living authentically. The path to freedom is focusing our attention on the things that we are for. The path to freedom is to love unconditionally. If we want to be free within ourself, we live authentically. If we want freedom in the relationships that we are in, then we listen and give them their freedom. If we're wanting to see a world that is free from every discord of every form, then our attention is on the infinite possibility of this unrelenting loving thing that makes all things new. So let's hold that in our heart, to know that we are loved, that which created us desires us to be free, to be fully who we have come to be. And the beauty of this is that when we are free to live our authentic self, the world is blessed. And so, dear friends, your greatest gift to the world in creating a just, equitable, and sustainable world is to live authentically.
Words are flowing out like endless rain into a paper cup. They slither while they pass, they slip away across the universe.
Pools of sorrow, waves of joy are drifting through my open mind, possessing and caressing me. Jai Guru. Deva. Om. Nothing's gonna change my world. Nothing's gonna change my world. Nothing's gonna change my world. Nothing's gonna change my world.
Images of broken light which dance before me like a million eyes. They call me on and on across the universe.
Thoughts meander like a restless wind inside a letterbox. They tumble blindly as they make their way across the universe. Jai Guru Deva Om. Nothing's gonna change my world. 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 Sounds of laughter, shades of life are ringing through my open ears, inciting and inviting me. Limitless, undying love which shines around me like a million suns. It calls me on and on across the universe. Jai Guru Deva Om. Nothing's gonna change my world. 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 Jai Guru Deva. Jai Guru Deva. Jai Guru Deva. Jai Guru Deva.
So I want to take this moment to bring to your attention our live event coming here at the Hilltop Center on August 12th. We are going to be having Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. and his brother Don Jose Ruiz speaking and celebrating. They're going to be covering some of their books, The Wisdom of the Shamans, The Mastery of Self, The Medicine Bag. Great book. I've used this teaching in the School of Ministry. This book right here, The Wisdom of the Shamans, I'm going to be using this in our August talks. So please come out. Please celebrate with us. Daring Greatly is going to be there. It's going to be a great evening. Tickets are selling briskly, and if you go to our website, all the information is there for you. And so to you, and to those whom you give and receive love from, I wish you many, many, many blessings.